18th Ways and Means meeting. Please join me for a Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Do we have any public participation for tonight? All right, not seeing any, we'll move right into the agenda here. We've rearranged things a little bit to accommodate various schedules. So our first one will be the planning board, which is budget 175. Brad, do we have a subcommittee report?
We do. And first visit to Ways and Means?
Yes.
Yes.
First time here, everyone. Yes.
So, let me get oriented. I've been staring at code all day, so give me a second. Megan and I, yes, met with the planning board, and straightforward enough. Salaries are down because of steps. We've got new people joining the department. Contracted services are up mainly because of the need for an MB.
I have no audio. I see the
We're mute, not mute.
board meeting
There
room
we
is
go.
muted. There we go.
Thanks, Ed.
I can take it from the top. Megan and I met with the planning board. Salaries are down because there were some retirements. Contracted services are up mainly because of the need for an MBTA communities consultant, which I imagine we'll be talking quite a bit about over the next foreseeable future. There are minor increases in GIS software maintenance, social media expenses, conference attendance, and professional memberships. The budget request is for $465,652. This is an increase of 1.44%, well under guideline. Subcommittee voted 2-0 to support.
Thank you. And hello, Elizabeth Von Vetcher.
Hi.
Would you like to add anything to that?
No, first time doing a budget, so, besides salaries, I basically, thought about, thinking about inflation, just making sure that we can sustain our current operating numbers given inflation. I'd like to pursue more long-range planning initiatives, so looking to work with consultants, not just on MBTA communities, but other longer-range planning things, looking at, town center, complete streets, all that type of stuff to enhance the community for the future, and thinking about post-pandemic, what the town is going to look like, how we're all going to move in and around, and how other people are going to get here and work here. So there's a lot to do in our department, so just trying to keep going. Yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to know on this MBTA thingy.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit about what's cooking there?
Sure. So this has been kind of all over the news lately if you're in my land use world. If you're not, I can understand why you wouldn't know about it. So the MBTA communities was a law passed as part of a bunch of housing based laws that were passed during the Baker administration. The first of which was to allow all housing-related rezonings only require a simple majority at town meeting. Most rezonings require 2/3 majority. And then this MBTA Communities Chapter 30A, 3A requirement requires all communities within the MBTA zone, areas that receive MBTA service, to have a zoning district that allows multifamily housing by right.
So the purpose of this person would be to do what?
So the purpose of the consultant would be to help us craft the zoning. There's also a GIS component in it, so mapping software to show that we're compliant with the requirements of that law. So I would need somebody a little bit more skilled in that. I know enough to be dangerous with GIS, but I want to make sure that we're compliant with the state, so I want to have an expert in the field do that. We don't currently have a person in the town that solely focuses on GIS. So that's why I'm consulting out.
And the zoning is it fall into one of the zoning categories that we have when making a new? What is the
So
zoning?
currently, right now, we do not have a zoning district that allows multifamily by right. My plan is to bring to town meeting a zoning overlay district that would overlay existing zoning. So if you have a business on your parcel, it's still fine there. You can still run your business. You can put in a new business, but you also have the option of producing multifamily housing on that property.
Okay, and so the consultant would help us just figure that out.
All the
at least
details of that,
high-
make sure we're compliant with the law on
And
that
how
one.
much of a time frame have we got to do this?
We have to have it in place by December of 2024.
December of 24?
So my plan is to come to this Maytown meeting and kind of give you all a deep briefing on what it is and talk to you about the requirements and what we're planning on doing going forward. And then from there, I want to, hire, I'm already applying for grants for a consultant, but want to have something in my back pocket in case loads don't come through. But looking to do that and just kind of get the process started. I have a district on the back of a napkin of where I think this could potentially go. It's not ready for public or prime time yet. I'm not planning on putting it in any single-family residential neighborhoods, so don't worry, it's not going next door to your house. And so that's what kind of the plan is. So I'm thinking, I want to have it at least at the May 2024 town meeting in case it goes south, and so I can come back to September. What I don't want to have to do is call a special town meeting for it, because you guys would be very mad at me, and I don't want that. So
We'll have plenty of time
Yeah.
to dig into that as a zoning discussion. If I may, Mr. Chairman, one other completely different thing. You have 2 open positions, correct?
I sure do.
But they're fully budgeted.
Yes, they are.
And you have any anticipation on when you would even have candidates to consider, or if you already do? Or
So I
timing,
got,
something like-
today, luckily enough, I got one candidate for the senior planner position. That's the position that I'm most interested in filling, because it's the person that's going to be able to help me the most work on the permitting side of things, while I'm able to focus on the long-range planning and working with consultants side of things. I have one person, but I anticipated this question. So there are so many planning positions opened in the state right now. I think people are either going private sector or they're retiring, and so right now, the Mass Planners listserv. So in January, there were 17 jobs listed. In December, there were 8. In February, there were 10. I'm seeing there are 5 this month already. So there are a lot of planning positions open. So I'm competing directly with places like Reading for senior planners. Winchester has a planning director openship. Ipswich is looking for a planning director. So it's a tough market right now, but I'm trying my best.
But you think you have the budget to work it?
Yes, I do think that the budget that I'm proposing, I've looked at all other towns and what they're giving, and I do think that the amount of money we're offering is competitive, definitely. I do, for the position, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Dave?
Just following up on the MBTA one, and this may be more of a question for John. So, again, the MBTA consultant needed, you talked about mapping and GIS, which I know is a big thing, and we've got other departments that are going through.
Yes.
Is this more of a warrant that we take it out of, do hire a consultant through a warrant process? 15,000 really doesn't warrant it, but is the need big enough, not just with the MBTA consultant, but other things that we should be looking at more of of a warrant for a larger thing and keeping it out of the budget where that's gonna be now in the budget next year.
Do you want me to come up? So, thank you, David. We haven't really talked about it, but I think when Liz first started talking, she talked about creating more long-range planning, and that this was sort of the first focus. So I think the understanding was they're kind of growing the budget so that then when this is done, there'll be the other stuff coming right on the heels of that. So we don't see it as sort of a one-time.
So it'll be an active consulting role.
We hadn't really talked about it, but just knowing what they're looking at and the path they're going, that makes more sense to. It gets in the budget, becomes part of the base, and then the other things come right behind it, those other consultants to do the work that you mentioned at the beginning.
Okay.
And then if I may, Mr. Chair, just for the record, I do think that, you know, GIS is something that a lot of departments use, but it's not, there's not one holistic person who's managing it. And so, you know, just thinking about that, if we were to, you know, either hire a consultant to be our outside, like holistic GIS manager, or hiring somebody to do it, I would be in favor of that. I'm not bringing that to you now, but just kind of want to throw it out there just for the record, so you know that it's something that we use a lot, but it's kind of scattered, and it would be
Well, it is
nice
scattered
to, yeah, it would
through
be
the
nice
various
to have somebody.
Budgets, and we've talked about it through the assessor's office,
Yes,
through the
absolutely.
clerk's office, through other ones, and it was really, it's kind of a little bit in everyone's budget, and it really should be managed in one area.
I'm 100% on board with that. I agree.
Doug? Couple of things. Are we, for the senior planner position, are we competitive? I mean, you say you're competing against these other towns, but are we gonna get?
I mean, yes, yes, as
Okay.
yes. You know, like, I'm looking at Reading, like, it's like off by a couple thousand, you know, it's not, we're in the ballpark of what people would be expecting for that position, absolutely, yes, yep.
And then,
Yep.
just small, but there's a $8,000 line for master plan implementation assistance. Well, what does that do? What is that?
So that is a holdover from Kristen Kasner, and I think it's, I don't know what it's for. It's to have for, I think I could use it for GIS and for, it can really be tied to almost anything. I could actually probably use it for some of the MBTA communities work that I need to do. You know, there is a housing element of the master plan. It does talk about needing different forms of housing in town and diversifying our housing stock. So, you know, I think that that is also a funding source I could use for that as well. But
Roger?
Just a quick follow-up. It sounds like that and the GIS, sorry, the open MBTA communities position really fit into a long-term need for consultant support as we go forward as an alternative, well, not as an alternative, as support, and not, if we don't have the staff to do everything ourselves, we do need expertise. We
Yes.
saw that with, you know, cell phone, tower planning, and et cetera. So
Yep.
maybe things can get consolidated and broadened a little bit if it can't be particularly targeted in the future.
sure, absolutely.
Steve?
And just following the master plan question, is that finalized at this point, or is that still, where do we sit with that?
It is finalized, it's being put together. So every single thing has been approved by the planning board, except for the housing element, because it's politically difficult. And the town center element, because it's also politically difficult. But it's, all the recommendations that were approved are the same. And we've actually done a lot of things that were in the recommendations just by, you know, basic work in town. So a lot of the things have actually come to fruition. So that's kind of the status of the master plan at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Move to approve?
Second.
Thank you. We have Ed remote, so we're going to do a roll call. Just to not pick on the early people, do it in reverse alphabetical order this time. David,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes?
Mike,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Chris Campbell,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 12-0-0. The amount was 465,652. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, great to see you. All right, another schedule rearrangement is we'll move on to Council of Aging. Does Town Hall 2, Brad, do you have a subcommittee report on that?
I do,
Excellent.
but it's out of order.
Just trying
Out
to
of
trick- trying to
my
trick you.
paperwork order. All
This
right,
is
thank you.
account 541.
So Megan and I met with Marge Yetman on the COA budget. Salaries are up by contract. Part-time salaries are up more significantly, 13.77%. They have put back in a van driver position that had been dropped during the, dropped from the budget during the COVID years, but the need is back, so that's been brought back in. Contracted services are up because I found out today that piano tuning is more expensive. Who would have known? Melt is up only $50. There is a decrease in special accounts since the decision was made that the department would no longer be making a contribution over to Minuteman Senior Services, and just many communities don't make that contribution, and Minuteman Services is a state-funded organization, and there won't be any decrease in services, but since we're having to tighten our belts a bit this year, they have made that decision in the budget. The Council on Aging, speaking of state funding, Council on Aging does receive state funding as well, and that amount is actually going up significantly from $67,000 to $89,000. Council on Aging's budget request is $477,582. That's an increase of a little over $17,000, or bang on the nose at guideline of 3.75%. Subcommittee voted 2-0 to support.
Welcome, Marge Yetman. Did you have anything to add to that?
I can. I was at Selectmen's meeting Monday night and just went over a couple of things. There's more pressure on the seniors' budgets as we kind of move forward. So they're having a tough time, which thus increases the social workers' efforts. Housing especially is a tough one. Folks, the rents are going up excruciatingly high, and oftentimes higher than the income of the seniors. So our social workers are spending a lot of time trying to find alternative housing for these folks, of which there really isn't any, if you're watching the news. We're spending a lot of time on end-of-pandemic changes. So the SNAP allocations are going away from the federal government. The emergency allocations, which were for seniors, were generally about $95 a month additional, so that's a huge loss. So it's trying to figure out other ways to, to find other ways to kind of decrease their income so we can increase the amount of money they're getting from SNAP. And a lot of fuel assistance applications, those have increased as well. So we're very, very busy. Participation continues to increase, not quite at levels pre-pandemic, but we have more activities going on too. So we're keeping them entertained and keeping them socialized.
Great. Any questions? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marge, can you just explain the So there's two things I see in terms of positions. One is the van driver. So is that an existing position that's been unfilled?
Yes.
Okay, so you opened it up a couple of years ago and just?
Yeah, so we, the person that was filling it retired in, I want to say December of 2020, maybe November. So we did not refill that because we didn't have anything going on. We've gotten very, very busy, and one driver was not enough.
Okay, I get it. And then the social worker, hired a temporary social worker, hope to make permanent at some point.
Yep,
This would be covered under the formula grant?
Yep.
What does that mean, covered, like the salary?
the salary's under, yeah, it's not benefited, so the formula grant covers it completely.
And is it covered at a part-time?
19
level?
hours.
19, and then if you made them permanent, would it cover the whole?
It could cover the salary, but it couldn't cover the benefits.
Okay, so permanent at some point, so it's not this year, it's at some time in the future?
Yeah, it'll be the future.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Roger?
I hate to have a picky question, but I was looking at the part-time part of the spreadsheet, and it's got a subtotal of 109,000, but when it's carried up into the first part-time line, it turns into 123,000. What am I missing?
You said it was,
So at the bottom of the part-time block,
yep,
there's a total of 109,103. But that doesn't match the Department 2024 number for part-time of 123,000.
do you have an answer for that, John?
I don't, just noticing it for the first time, but we will.
I hate to be picky.
No, no,
Kind of a discrepancy, yeah.
it's a good question. I didn't notice it either. John will get you an answer.
Okay.
Do we have a sense as to whether the enumerated part-time total of 109 is more or less likely, or John's going to go out and get the data on that right now? Okay, very good. All right.
All right, I should have called it out to the subcommittee before.
No, it's a good
tonight,
question. Are there any other questions on this?
I would guess that the one on this, part-time sheet would be the correct one.
Okay. What I'm going to suggest is while John's off researching that, you're also here for local transportation. So before we vote on the first one, we'll go over to local transportation and hopefully we'll have an answer on that. So local transportation is under other accounts in your book. Does the subcommittee have a report on that, Brad?
We do.
Excellent.
So both the Lyft rides and the Go-Go rides programs are being used. The town is keeping an eye on both usage and costs, given that so we still have, just about 2.5 years of data or so.
3 years now. February of 2020.
The first year really doesn't, first year doesn't carry a lot of information. So usage is still increasing, and given that and the fact that the remaining Beeline funds are decreasing, and we can get a specific number on that hopefully from Mr. Denizio, but the town is requesting $100,000 this year for the program, which is an increase from the $50,000 that was requested for last year. Marge tells me that the hope is that additional 50 will not be needed, but it's anybody's guess where the ridership and costs are going to go. So their proposal is to err on the safe side. Seemed reasonable, and again, the program is meeting the needs of a lot of people in town who had relied on the Beeline for so many years. And I see this program as a great kindness to the community, and despite the 100% increase in costs, the subcommittee decided to support 2-0.
Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, so we've actually, all but one person transferred over to this program from the Beeline. So we have everybody that was using it before, and a whole lot more. We have a lot of folks that are disabled in some way, but going to work every day, and they're sometimes using it as a primary, sometimes using it just to complement the MBTA ride program. And then the seniors. The seniors, for the most part, tend to use it just in case, they have it, they're not using it. I find that most of the utilization seems to be from younger folks that are working, but disabled or low income.
Do you have any ride numbers?
I do. We're averaging somewhere between 700 and 800 a month for rides. It's about $7,000 plus dollars a month. So, and they're using it all, people are using it in the middle, to go out at night. They're using it just to be kind of normal people and not have to rely on the, 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night buses. So I think it's, in a lot of ways, I think it brings back some pride to the folks that are using the service. They're not having to walk long distances. They're not using a bus that everyone says, oh, they don't drive. They just look like everybody else using Uber or Lyft. So I think it works really well that way, I think.
Any questions? Doug?
So, I should know this because it was our subcommittee for a little while, but what were we spending on Beeline at the end there?
Beeline, you're gonna test my memory then. So what I remember is there was an $80,000 subsidy, give or take, from the MBTA. There was about, Paul's not here.
It's like 50K, wasn't it?
It was 50 or so that we were spending, and then we were taking in money from the revolving account that they were taking in. So all in, Doug,
Yeah.
I think it's right around that, it was around 150, 160,000 when you added what the MBTA was giving, what Burlington was putting in, and then what the revolving account was doing. But when you take the per ride cost, I think that this program is doing better. And I think it's why we kind of had turned to it, was we were saying this was a dying breed, Burlington Transit,
Per ride
right?
cost, it's a better deal for us, and you want people to use it.
100%.
Yeah, we're not getting the MBTA money.
No, but it's a more door-to-door, and
I
it's,
agree.
and it's a more, like Marge
Dignified.
said, huh?
Dignified.
It's a more dignified approach, but even more so, and I think the dignified part is huge. I think what's beautiful is that ride allows people to get, we were losing people in the ridership on the Beeline because they either had to walk a long distance
Yeah.
or because the timing was off. So
And
this
it's
kind of
very limited where
helps.
it went.
Yeah, but that's what I remember is, and that 50 was us cutting it back, if you remember, because we had
Yeah.
taken a few buses offline. So it went from like 3 buses and each one was 50. There was a point where we were doing 150,000 in the budget, and then it reduced, and then it reduced. The 80 stayed stable for the MBTA. So even though we lost that 80, in essence, we're spending, over time, we've spent less money on it, I think, than we were in the past.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 100,000, you're not accounting for any offsets for the reimbursement that we get from the Lyft usage revolving account, am I right?
Are we on local transpo? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was gone.
Yeah, local,
So-
this is local transportation.
Yeah,
So
so
there will
the-
be an offset, we just don't know how much.
No, we only get billed the difference. So when, are you talking about the rider has to pick up a share of it?
Yes.
We
Yeah.
just get billed our share. We don't actually pay the whole freight and then get a reimbursement. So they only bill us max $10 per ride.
Well, I think you're talking about the 10 cents
The
per
10 cents.
ride.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, there's a
TNC, yep.
usage return from the state prorated by Burlington's usage.
Yep, so the way that works, it has to come in and get put into a receipts reserved, and we have to
Right.
appropriate it. In the last few years, we have appropriated it to
So
offset
it's
this.
this. So And I can't remember, it was a sizable amount of money we did last year, right?
Oh, a couple of years ago, we did a few years' worth. That was like 55,000. Last year, 22, it was 12,000. This past year, 23, it was 14,000.
14,000.
We expect it to grow as we start
Right,
using it.
because the ridership's going up.
I know you don't believe how many rides there are.
Well, I didn't when you first gave me the number, but yet again,
They're testing me.
the numbers are staggering. You could make money in the pennies, but in any event,
We see right now, we have about 700 to 800 rides a month, max
Yeah.
$10, you know, but we don't know what it's gonna normalize. We do have the revolving account to help offset, so we're trying to incrementally raise the budget so that we don't have to have a big spike one year to go up to whatever the normal.
well, that's fine, but, so this 100K is kind of a conservative, you know, bucket to work out of, and the offset to that on an annual basis is probably gonna be 15,000 or more.
Yeah.
If we apply those receipts to this, which I don't know why we wouldn't, but that makes sense, so that's just good to keep in mind. I mean, it really helps make this that much more affordable.
Roger?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd describe it as an offset. It's more like this money would get turned back at the end of the year.
Regardless, and you can do whatever you, within limits, whatever you want with it, right?
Once it's turned back, yeah.
Once it's turned back, and we've elected to use it to put money back into the local transportation costs, so to reduce them.
Yeah.
Sonia?
So, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Did you want to follow up
If
on
I
that?
got the chair.
Yep.
So it sounds like we're putting about 115 grand into, 114 grand, not knowing exactly what's in the revolving account, annually into this. And previously, we were only putting 50 grand. And one of the arguments for going to this was that it was gonna be cheaper. Now, it actually has a lot of other benefits, as was previously mentioned, but the town of Burlington is putting more money into this, into local transportation than we were before.
Well, I think the last year that we were doing it the old way, the appropriation was 120,000 to it. The 50 has been the last couple of years since we've been doing the new program, just because it was the pandemic and there were less people
All right.
riding. And we've built up a balance in the revolving account that it's paid from. So we could get away with 50 for a couple of years during the COVID cuts. But we do expect that the regular appropriation will probably be within the 100 and 150 range once we normalize usage. And then we'll just draw down that balance in the revolving account. And, you know, if we continue to direct the TNC, the rideshare fee, the rideshare money we get from the state to it, then maybe that grows to a 175, you know, if we're at 150 and another 25, and then that budget's 175 a year, then that maybe is the right spot. Maybe that's a little bit more, but I don't know what the bus would cost if we were still doing it, given new prevailing wages and gas and so.
Salaries and everything. All right, that sounds closer than I was thinking, but, so thank you.
Sonia?
So I should know this part, but, so forgive me for asking this. The money that we're taking in on the 100, that's not going into is that going into an accommodated account or a revolving fund?
So the way it works now, it's just because the way we were doing it before, it goes into the revolving account, because that used to have several different sources, put it into one place, spend it all on the transportation. I think probably as we spent that down, maybe we would create a new department budget in the operating budget to just fund it there, maybe. But right now, it would continue, you know, this year, the 50,000 we appropriated got transferred into the revolving account, as did the 14 from the receipts reserved for the rideshare.
That can get accepted into a revolving account, right,
Yeah.
John? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I actually don't think that's a bad thing for it to be in a revolving account, only because, again, if the ridership, whether it's up or down, if it's down a certain year and there's money in there, that money could stay in there from year to year and not necessarily have to go through. Am I right about that? In the revolving
Yeah.
account, that money could stay because it's just allocated for the ridership at that point.
Yeah, I think the things we would pick from is to have that flexibility of absorbing any spike in ridership
Correct.
by the revolving account versus it not closing to free cash if you don't spend it all.
Correct.
So those are the
Yeah.
two choices.
And then I think just to add, Roger, you're right in that it's more, but I think that's important for people to know going into town meeting is if you look at what we're doing now with local transportation versus what we were doing with Burlington Transit, then it's almost like you're taking it back to the 3-bus capacity. Do you know what I mean by that? Because it's across the town again, where when we were down to the 50,000, when we were allocating 50 at the end, we were down to a bus, or a route, I should say. So when there was that one route, you could bring down that funding, but when we were at a full 3 buses running, albeit not as full as we wanted them, but a full 3 buses running, it was really like more in that 100-plus range, because, so the community will see that it's a big increase from what we had, because it was at a number that we used to do for a $50,000 allocation, but really what it is we have to look at it like we're taking that, we're going back to that 3-bus system, except on a door-to-door basis, I think, is probably the best way to look at it.
Hey, Doug?
So, and just along those lines, and maybe I'm
Yes.
beating a dead bus, I don't know.
We did kill the buses.
I was kind of way in favor of this, and I'm supportive of it. When we talked about it was going to save us money, it was going to save us money per ride, because we were
Correct.
spending $14 a ride on the B line, and now we're capped at 10 per ride.
Yeah.
And the more successful it is, I mean, we'd said up front, it's going to become more expensive than the B line, because it's going to help.
More people will be apt to take it. Right.
We were looking at $17 a ride was the estimate if we kept the B line, for long, so that just kept going up because fewer people were riding the same bus, so.
Good point.
Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. What is the, is there like an eligibility requirement to take advantage of this?
Yes, you have to be 60 and over, disabled, or have an income that is 300% of the poverty level, of the federal poverty level.
Or, right, 60 or.
Yes.
Or.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, you don't have to have all 3.
thank you.
But, sorry.
Yes?
So, do you have a rough idea of how many individuals qualify like
Yes,
that? in town?
we average between 40 and 50, a little more than 50 active riders each month.
No, I was thinking of people who meet the criteria.
Oh.
Which is different than riders.
I don't know how many people meet the criteria across the board. We have about 150 people that have signed up for the program.
Okay, thanks.
Just a quick follow-up. What is the federal poverty level at the current time?
For what, is
Of the 30% of the federal, for this program. It's like 30,000, I think.
yeah.
So, so you said 300% of the?
300% of the federal poverty level.
So anyone who gets 90,000 or less can take this? Is that what that's saying?
It's 30,000, it's about 30,000 is the amount.
Okay, oh, 30,000 is the limit. Okay, thanks.
Motion on this?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, this is for 100,000 on the local transportation account. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 12-0-0. And I see that Mr. Dionisio is in with the breaking data on the original budget here.
So maybe I'd suggest we upload a new copy, and we could do it next week, or I can just give you the number. I don't know.
I think if you can, is the number just using is it one of the 2 choices?
Yeah, it's using the 109, so, but I can tell you what happened, just.
We'll take it.
When we offset more from the formula grant, it only did it on the summary page instead of translating that.
All right, so I think given that it's one of the 2 choices, that's okay. So what does the new total become?
462,794.
462,794?
Saving money
Tell them
already.
the percent
Okay.
change.
Which is only a 0.54% increase.
I don't know, we're gonna have to give Roger a raise on that savings there. Okay, do we have a motion for the adjusted budget of 462,794?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. David,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Chris Campbell. Yes. Brad.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 12-0-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Copy uploaded tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you, John.
Thanks.
I'm sorry to have reduced your budget, but
All right, that was a happy ending. All right, so getting back more in order here, our next is library, which is budget 610. Do we have a subcommittee report, Brad?
Yes. So Megan and I met with Michael Wick and a member of our own committee who serves double duty. He's also on Rob Neufeld is also on the trustee at the library. And so we went over the FY '24 budget. There are indeed significant changes to the full-time and part-time. Not only salaries are up a bit, but there's actually been a change on positions. Rest assured, breathe a sigh of relief, it's a net zero on FTEs. So, let me step through the changes being proposed. So Mr. Denizio, did the new copy of the library budget go up to the website from last Friday?
I think John just had to leave.
Oh, he's here.
Oh, yeah, he's hiding behind the TV. Okay.
Is there a new budget total?
Well, it was from
The restructuring.
I
yeah,
think that's reflected on the budget that was submitted.
yeah, it was from the trustees' vote 2 weeks ago.
Oh, last week.
But it's a change since the hard copy books.
The number
No, but it was the number.
agrees with the scorecard.
Yeah.
So the change in positions that are being proposed, before the change, there were 8 library page positions. The proposal is to go down to 3 page positions. So the 5 that have gone, one of them, and by the way, these are all quarter-time positions. So 5 were subtracted, 1 quarter-time library aide position was added in, and then the 4 quarter-time positions were all rolled up into a single position by the title of Programming and Marketing Coordinator. So reduced headcount, but FTEs are, and I did check with the administration that, yeah, FTEs are, it does balance out. And this has all been worked through with the union, and this is all good. And again, this is, the library trustees voted this just before the meeting with Ways and Means. Okay, so that's probably the biggest complication in their budget. Overtime is up for next year simply because just as Marge's budget goes up and down for a number of elections, the number of Sundays in a year impacts their overtime budget. There's an extra Sunday, the way the calendar works out this year, for something over a 9% increase. There's a decrease in contract services because of the reorganization. They were spending some money on marketing, but that can go away now. There is an increase, which we see every year, in the book and periodical purchases, and again, by the requirement to be part of the consortium, 12%, still 12%?
That's a state aid requirement, yes.
Okay.
To be certified by the Mass Board of Library Commissioners.
So 12% of the budget has to go toward purchase of books and periodicals. Budget goes up, that number goes up. The total request that's being made is for $1,784,253. That's an increase of $56,026, or 3.24% under guideline. Subcommittee voted 2-0 to support.
All right, and we have Michael Wick with us here. Would you like to add anything to that?
We've been doing a great amount of programming, over the past few years. Actually, I have something that I could hand out to committee members. I'll just pass it around if that's okay. So we've had significant increase in programming that we've done for adults in the library. That's an area that previously we really hadn't grown much. It had stayed level for many, many years. And when I came in as director and we brought on our new assistant director, we really made a concerted effort to increase our programming numbers and see kind of where the wall was on this that we could push up against and see, how much we could increase this before we really met the reality of only so many hours for staff to be able to handle this. We've expanded to the reference desk staff also supporting programming. And so over these past few years, we've been able to increase programming participation by over 233% with adults. So the problem is, though, is that that's the wall. We're pretty much at the maximum of what we can do. My assistant director also needs to do many administrative tasks. And so that's why we're looking to add this programming and marketing coordinator position. The assistant director has done a wonderful job expanding our reach, but also with working with local organizations. So we've been working with IAGB, the Indian Association of Greater Boston, Indian Americans for Burlington. We've been working with HURA, which is the Harvard University Retirees Association, working with English at Large, to do programs at the library, and many other local organizations that we've been partnering with to bring programming to the library. And the pandemic helped us additionally kind of expand our programming reach because libraries are partnering for online programming now. So if we offer a program one month, then the next month another library that's participated in our program and paid a small portion of that program then offers us a program as well. And so that's a program that we don't necessarily have to partake in beyond marketing. And so these are all of these, efforts that have led to increased programming numbers. But again, we're just kind of up against a wall of what we can do. And people are obviously asking for more. They're looking for more. And so that's why we're expanding this position or adding this position of the programming and marketing coordinator for the library. And that's not really to speak of all the amount of effort and work that goes into once you put a program together, then you have to get people to come. You have to get people to be aware of it. So, working and marketing on that, social media. I know from the town doing its own internal audit of how it communicates with the community. The recommendation is for the town to get someone at large to do this as well. And that's what we're looking to do is to, have a part of this position be more dedicated to it because there's really been no one person who's handled marketing for the library.
Any questions? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to understand a little bit better, if I could. So participation is increasing dramatically, but when someone participates, they're using the online mechanism. In other words, the program itself can service a very, very large number of people. The participation cost is maybe equipment or connect services. What's the barrier to more participation?
Well, the barrier to more participation is getting the word out in a big way, as well as just having the amount of programs. If that's what you're talking about.
If you have 100 programs and 100 people take it,
Mm-hmm.
you got one participant per program. If 1 million people take it, the programming costs don't go up. If it's still
No.
100 programs.
No, and so we're not increasing programming costs in this budget.
So it's about socializing to the public what programs are available?
Well, no, the reason why we're adding this additional position is so that we can continue expanding programming.
Number of programs?
Yes.
Types of programs?
Yes.
Refreshing them, that sort of thing?
Yes.
And how many programs have you got altogether now?
So last fiscal year, we did over 147 adult programs.
Different programs?
Yes.
And do you find adult participation is far greater than, let's make the cutoff, age 21, I don't know, or 18. So is there much youth participation?
So our youth participation is still going strong for children's. You know, the pandemic really upset quite a bit with teens, because typically teens is a much smaller window. And so when they move along, we usually would have them kind of daisy chaining and bringing, you know, younger people on board.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the pandemic and the 2 years disruption that had, we're kind of having to start off at zero again. But that was more last fiscal year, though.
So the size of the age 12 to age 18 cohort is probably relatively constant. You can't grow because people age out and come in. So I'm just trying to get a feel for this, because it sounds like, you know, this is an idea that really kind of blunts the lack of people actually reading and getting books. It gets participation in information and in, you know, entertainment and the use of English or other languages very widely available and dispersed. So it seems like a marvelous way to put new life into libraries.
Yeah, and I would say that it's complementary. It's not replacing in any way, but it's very complementary. You know, we're doing so this past month we've been working with the Woburn Public Library in partnership to do a citizenship course. So this is a program that is going to be taking place. It's taking place in Woburn right now, and then we're going to have a second cohort of it taking place in Burlington. And you know, we have 20 people each course participating in this, you know, becoming new citizens. We find that a lot of people who you know, get great use of the library are new citizens or immigrants. You know, they're looking to the library for you know, that low cost information. You know, participation for their children, you know, events for their children to go to that are low cost, events for them to enjoy that are low cost, and then just access to materials.
So in this budget, how much staffing and dollars behind that staffing go to new program creation? How do I figure that out?
That's one that I don't think I could really give per se, because it's such an amorphous number. You know, how much time people may dedicate to a program. You know, that's something that we haven't really tracked, asked people to sit down.
Right.
Yeah, creating a new one, marketing it. More what we've done is just worked it into their workflow. So I've asked reference staff if they were interested in participating in programming, then to see where they had availability. I haven't been tasking them with a number of programs to do. It's been more providing them the opportunity to do it. And librarians find this to be very beneficial. I mean, this is fun work in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
It's
so
very-
I think this is great. And the reason I asked that question was I'm just trying to get a good sense of, have we got enough behind it that we can really get this to grow with quality and diversity? I don't mean DEI diversity, I mean just
Sure.
different things. I mean, that comes into.
Yeah, different
So you
topics.
feel that you're able to do that on an ongoing basis from the nature of the staff you've got that are interested in this?
Well, I think, you know, that's really why we're growing and creating this position, is so that we can take it to that next step. Because, you know, since, I'm trying to think of when I started as director here, 2017, you know, that was a major push that I had made, was to see with our existing staff, how much programming can we do? And then, you know, we've hit that wall for about the past year and a half, 2 years. So now the next step is where can we take it? And I think that I think the next step is in having this person there, having a lot more independent or programming that's independent of a librarian directing it. And you know, what I mean by that is bringing in outside presenters more often that don't require as much hands-on. You know, when we do our third Thursday programming, which that's always been kind of the focal point of our programming since it's been supported by the Friends, and it's that program for adults that we tend to put a fair amount of money into each month. There's been a lot of work for a staff member to promote that, to be there and be present for that.
Yeah.
I would say marketing to the individuals who are in the program, what next programs we may have. That's a lot of time. I mean, it's 2 to 3 hours just for that one program, for that person to be there, set it up, tear it down, say goodbye to everybody. And we can do a lot more with it if we just had a space that was set up where a presenter can come in, press a button on the wall, the screen comes down, the projector comes down, they plug in, they push a button, it projects to, from their computer to the projector. So that's something else that we've been doing too, is the trustees have used some of the state aid monies that we've received, and we've done a major upgrade to the audiovisual in the Fogelberg area, so that people would be able to do that. And not just programmers too, but outside groups who are using the space. If anybody here had a meeting that they wanted to run, they would be able to come into that space, reserve that space, use a television, have a little dongle that they plug into their computer, press a button, their computer image gets presented there, and it'd be all very
So
easy.
from a budget, we're about budgets. I mean, this is all very informative. But from a budget point of view, you feel that this gets you to as a budget that will bring you to another level?
Yes.
That's what you're trying to do?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Thanks.
David?
Just understanding the category a little bit, and I see what was explained on the overtime side. So you have vacation coverage, which to me, understand, you've got to have a certain number of people in there, it covers while people are on vacation.
Yeah.
Then you have Sundays 36, summer Saturdays 11, shift differential. Is that, again, because, is that a obligation of how often the library has to be open? Like Brad was talking about an extra Sunday.
Yes.
Are they generally not paid? Is this a union thing that they're not paid on Saturdays, so they have to work it as overtime? And it's not in the union contracts, or explain the.
Yeah, so it's paid time and a half. So this isn't typical, Monday through Friday work. But of course, we do work on Saturdays during our regular season, but it's written into the contract, the union contract, so that during summer, we basically pile all of the hours that a staff works into Monday through Friday, and then those Saturdays become overtime, 4-hour overtime shifts. And then during our regular schedule, it expands to our Saturdays, our regular schedule, where people may rotate on a Saturday, and then during Sundays, that's their time and a half, 4-hour, contractually obligated.
So with the Sundays, there was an extra week this year. Is the library, you couldn't make it 35 and say, well, we're delaying a week? Like, I don't know what.
We certainly could,
Okay.
but of course, we have a calendar that's set up that the public
Right, not
expects
advocating
that we're
for it, I'm
usually.
just saying.
No, absolutely. I mean, we've done it. We've done it just recently. During COVID, we did shave some of those Sundays off. But as you're implying as well, or as you were stating earlier, I shouldn't say implying, you were stating it, there are requirements as well. If we're going to be reducing the amount of weekend hours that we have, then we would go into a different category where we would have to expend 13% of our budget to text. But because we operate more hours, we get to expend 12% of our budget towards our circulating materials. So that's kind of a couple of moving targets.
Thank you.
Is this part of the BNBA
Yeah, so
union?
one of the things I always find when we're
What
talking about
contracts
the
are we
programming,
talking
I
about?
see a lot of, not overlap, but potential overlap between rec, schools, library, Burlington Youth and
Must
Family
be.
Services. Can you talk about some of the collaboration that you guys might do when looking and thinking of programming and budgeting?
Yeah, we already do coordination. With the rec department, Kelly and my children's staff have been working pretty closely on Spring-a-Paloozas, on scavenger hunts, story walks. We've also been working with the Council on Aging. We have a librarian who goes over to Memory Cafe and participates in those events. So we're always looking for opportunities of where we can dovetail. I think too, there's certain lanes that we stay in For example, we're not doing pickleball in our Fogelberg area. I'm sure pickleball advocates would love to have expansion of the courts. But, certain activities, heavily physical activities, we don't really have any interest in doing something like that.
Yeah, for like one of the things I'm thinking of is like the schools will bring in authors,
Mhm.
a storybook author, ways to give it, subsidize it after school to the general public, people equipment, things like that. Therapeutic programs that the Burlington Youth and Family Services. And then my other question is, when people are signing up for these programs, is there a way to ask, or are you asking for feedback at the end on, what they thought of the programs, or if there's any other things that they're looking for?
Every once in a while, we'll do something like that. Sustained requests for feedback, you really don't get much quality feedback. So what we've been doing is we do a strategic plan every 5 years, and that's when we reach out to the community and ask them for feedback, and we typically ask a lot of feedback on programming at that time as well. So actually, we got this last, last month, we finished up our community survey, and I know this may seem like a small number, but statistically, it's a pretty significant number. We received 720 responses to our survey, which was a good amount just for our general survey. Our young adult survey, we had over 200 responses, which that was a phenomenal number, right? Trying to get a teen to answer more than one question can be tricky sometimes, and we got 8 questions in. So, these are the opportunities when we look at it and we get ideas from the community. And also, in working with the advisory committee for our strategic plan, we involve individuals from community institutions. So, we have 3 individuals who are teachers or administrators at the Burlington Public Schools who are working with us and kind of helping us direct this process.
Actually, I just had a couple quick questions myself. I was curious, I know you mentioned the assistant directors retiring, that there was a buyout of the leftover PTO. I wasn't finding the line item where that was, so I just wanted to make sure that was really captured in here.
So typically what we'll do is we will bring that individual in at their current, we'll have that depicted by the individual at their current level. But, I believe that this last year, what we looked at was removing that, and John can, well, actually, I don't think John's here anymore.
I think John had to run off.
Yeah. But so he had suggested removing that from this because there are other accounts that can be used to accommodate that buyout. So he felt like it didn't need to be represented in this budget.
Okay, so it's not in here, but he's got it accounted for in the general budget somewhere. Okay. The other one was just with the programming position, it looks like you're replacing 4 pages effectively. That would be about 40K with a position that before benefits is 66K. So it's about a 26K uptick. Is that the right analysis here?
Yeah, and when I was looking at that, I'd seen how we brought new positions into the town previously, and a lot of times we'll do that through a grant. Subsidizing the cost of that position. So, not having a grant for this, I determined a different way of doing that. And so that was in, kind of reworking how we handled the page positions, the page duties, and so that subsidized it in part.
Okay. And just in terms of, and it's too bad John's gone, but in terms of the FTE chart, the new position is not captured in there. But the pages were never captured in there, so it's 2 things that aren't on the chart are offsetting each other. Just if you're trying to play along at home looking at the FTE chart, you're not going to find it. Yeah. Frank.
Related to what you're drilling in there, Mr. Chairman, so is this, are your union employees part of the BMEA union?
Yes.
And so we put into negotiated settlements a sum of money that accounts for a pretty good guess at retirements and other things related to transitions. Why wouldn't this, so this it's a retirement-related expense, right, the paid time?
For a full-time or
Right.
a benefited union
Right.
position, yes.
So I don't understand why that wouldn't just be in the negotiated settlements.
Well, I think that's what Michael is saying, is
Is
you won't see it in this budget.
Is that what you meant?
So, well, no, I was talking about something else. But yes, they do kind of dovetail in a way. Also, you know, there has been discussions with the union that we've identified one position that as it becomes vacant, then that position would not be filled as well on library staff. So it would effectively be a balancing within the union
That's all.
FTEs as well.
That's fine. I just think that the retirement stuff should be in the negotiated settlements. It must be.
That makes sense to me. I don't know, is that where
You never-
accounting has put it?
I don't know. We do the BME,
I know we've talked
BMEA
about that.
contract, but we never actually talked about library employees in any specific way.
Well, that'd be a good follow-up for your next meeting with John, is just,
Negotiated settlements. We'll
Right.
is just make sure that,
Yeah, we still have that one to do. All
just
right,
make
we'll
sure the
check.
payouts are included in negotiated settlements, that
Right,
makes
because that
sense there,
account is, and it's reduced quite a bit this year too. So, okay, we'll check on that.
okay, thank you.
That, sorry, my recollection is that is also varied, in that sometimes they have not hired the replacement until they have paid off the reimbursement for PTO.
Inevitably, it takes time to hire that replacement anyway.
Can anyway, but I think there's multiple techniques as opposed to just making sure it's in.
There are, but you still gotta cover yourself from a budgetary point of view. You don't wanna get caught with something happening and there's not enough money in the
Yeah,
negotiated
so
settlements.
far, the salary budgets have always assumed immediate replacement, just to be
Right.
on the safe side, but the reality is what you're saying.
All right, thank you.
Chris?
So one last question about the programming marketing coordinator. What kind of qualifications are you gonna be looking for this position?
So, you know, we are going to be having this individual working in public desks in the library. So library experience would be a big part of that. But, you know, the way that we write a lot of our job descriptions now are, you know, a recommended minimum qualifications. So what we're looking at for that would be an MLS, a Master's of Library Science, or, you know, some sort of, yeah, exactly, amalgam-related activities.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Thank you.
Second.
Excellent. Okay, this is for the library budget of $1,784,253. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed? Ed Carson?
We
Thank
timed
you.
them out.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That's 12-0-0.
Thank you.
Also for the library, we have library facilities, which is account 192. Do we have a report on that, Brad?
Yes, so for newer members of the committee, we just mentioned that 12% of the library budget needs to go toward books and periodicals. Not all libraries in the Commonwealth pay for their own occupancy. Some do, many don't. The philosophy in Burlington has been to have each department be responsible for their occupancy expenses. So it had been lumped in for all these years, but a few of us, a bunch of years ago, got the bright idea if we pulled it out, then that's that much less, it'll bring the budget down by not having to buy quite so many books. So in retrospect, I can't believe I voted for that, loving books as much as I do, but
We're allowed to buy more.
You can always get more.
love of books versus being really cheap. So, so we pulled occupancy out into a separate line item, and on the recommendation of DPW, it is been recommended to level fund, and level fund in the amount of $98,163. Subcommittee voted 2-0 to support.
Anything additional on that, Michael?
No, nothing.
Okay, any questions?
Motion to approve.
Yes,
Okay, and discussion, Roger?
sorry. So I think in all the other budgets, there has been an increase in occupancy of 3% that's showed up in other places. So I was kind of curious why it wasn't here. And then the other observation is that as of February, 8 months into the budget, you've only spent about, 40% of it. So I guess I wonder how much was turned back last year in that budget, or if that's even the right question to ask. It seems like a bigger number than necessary, but there's probably a good explanation, and it may be irrelevant.
I wonder if part of it is because of all of the facilities updates that they've done. We have a new HVAC system that's been installed. Yeah, you were there.
I've heard it every day for 2 weeks.
New roofing, new lighting. There's been a lot of significant updates during COVID. So I wonder if they're just keeping it the same to kind of see how it goes so that they can get a target. I'm given a guideline when I'm putting it together. And I've noticed the same as you, it's coming under typically, so that's why I haven't come back and said, I think we should do more, but I'm really not privy to much of the decision-making that they have on that.
All right, thanks. I'll second Sonia's motion if it's still on the.
Well done. Okay, this is for library facilities, $98,163. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 12-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, moving on to Board of Health, which is account 510. Do we have a report on that, Brad?
Yes, we do.
Guys, you've been busy this,
So
it's all you.
Megan and I met with the Board of Health, was that just yesterday? In the space of the 1-hour meeting, the parking lot in front of Human Services went from no snow to a good 1.5 inches of snow, so doesn't happen very often. So Board of Health budget, so there's a lot going on with the Board of Health, and but not so much going on with the operating budget. So sticking to the operating budget for the moment. Salaries are all dictated by contract. Everything else is level funded. Budget request is for $750,118. That's an increase of around $33,000, or coming in at 4.68%. Subcommittee voted 2-0 to support.
Any questions? I'm sorry, we have Susan Lemonello from the department and Dr. Ed Weiner from the Board of Health with us. Do you have anything to add to that?
Everything's level funded. Everything is the same. We've been very busy. If you follow what's been going on, we're very busy in a lot of different areas, not only in food and public health, but biotech is exploding in this community. It's exploding. And with the soon inclusion of one of the most important biotech companies, or institutes, I should probably call them, in the world, the Broad Institute from Cambridge, which is the think tank for Harvard and MIT. We're going to see a real change in this community, a change that we really need as we move from an office-based community to a biotech community. The Board of Health is the key. We bring them here, we attract them, and we regulate them, and we do everything necessary to keep the community, both the residents and the people who visit this community, safe. So I'll leave it with that. I think we talked quite a bit about that yesterday.
We won't blame you for the snow. All right, any questions? Mike?
I just have to commend you for the thoroughness of the cover sheet.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Great to see.
Mike's our cover sheet policeman. Thank you.
Somebody put a lot of work into this.
That and the new position sheet, too.
It's his baby.
I-
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
I appreciate that. I'm glad you read it so thoroughly.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And we absolutely do read them. It is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, this is for the operating total of the budget, which is $750,118. And we've already had all that. It happened quickly. But thank you again.
Sorry.
Good to be careful. David,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Chris Campbell,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 12-0-0. All right, we have a couple of accommodated accounts also with this. First one is hazardous waste.
Hazardous waste is level funded at $50,000. Subcommittee voted 2-0 to support.
Anything additional on that?
It's amazing how much hazardous waste remains in this community. As I said yesterday, it's not uncommon for us still to receive DDT from people who own houses in this, in Burlington. It's amazing what comes out of people's basements and attics.
Well, thank you for collecting it all.
Pressure will get out of
Breathe while
town.
you're doing it.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. This is for the hazardous waste accommodated account of $50,000. David,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Chris Campbell,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 12-0-0. Other accommodated account is mosquito control. Any report, Brad?
Yes, level funded in the amount of $45,743 precisely. Subcommittee voted 2-0 to support.
And they spent every last dollar of it last year. Any report on that, further on that?
Assessment, it's not a.
There's no change to that. They're continuing with what they normally do. That's the East Middlesex Mosquito Control Project. They do the larvicide aerial spraying in the spring. That's the helicopter larvicide. They do the catch basins. And then they monitor the mosquitoes, different traps around town, and spray depending upon what the mosquito populations are throughout the summer.
And thank you for responding with putting out a reverse 911 when the sprayer's coming out. Has had a few constituents ask for that. So you won't be gassing out your animals anymore. Any comments, questions?
Motion to approve?
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. All right, this mosquito control, $45,743. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Doug Davison?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 12-0-0.
And Mr. Chairman, for those of you who read through the cover sheet carefully, this whole Triton collaborative, that's probably good for, the short story is probably 20 minutes worth of material, but a very interesting and hopefully successful program that the state is putting on, having regional public health collaboratives.
That's a 3-year program, if I saw.
Yeah, right now, we've been approved for $30,000 per year for 3 years, but we're expected that that's going to continue.
We're approved for a total of 900,000.
300,000 a year.
900,000 for Lexington, Burlington, and Wilmington, of which we are guaranteed approximately 300,000 over those 3 years. And since we administrate the grant in the community, we get an extra 10%. So we get approximately will be about
So-
$110,000
Yeah.
a year.
300,000 per year.
Now, that cannot be used towards this budget at all. that will pay for services that we have been talking about for years and years. For instance, we're finally going to have the ability to hire between the three communities an epidemiologist to look at this whole community. Are there any spikes in this community? What's going on in this community? We've done that, but not to an extent that a professional who can do that full-time and take a look at that. So I'm really excited about that piece. I think Dr. Bond here, we talked a lot about that.
And if I could also, there's going to be staff involved with this project, and they will be housed in our Human Services building, so they are coming to town, so.
Yeah, so right now, we have what's called a shared services coordinator, someone to help assist coordinate the grant, so she's been hired. And then we're going to be interviewing very shortly for epidemiologist, health inspector, community health worker, public health nurse.
And the person who will be directing this grant will be our director, Susan Luminella, so we're in good hands.
And one other point that came up in the discussions yesterday, biotech is growing here in Burlington, in the region. So Board of Health is going to have to keep pace with the increased workload. Now, they're not asking, they asked for an additional position last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Recently, who's been working on working with the new companies coming in full-time. But the department's going to need to grow. I guess I should ask this of the administration at some point, but back when Northwest Park came online, they had the PDD, and we did this study on how we would have to increase staffing, fire, police, DPW, Board of Health, everything. So the PDD kind of kicked off that growth in the departments, and it's not clear that the way the biotech is coming in, that it will kick off such a discussion. So, I mean, we didn't have the answer for it yesterday, but something needs, we all need to have that discussion.
As an example, the district, was what they call between the mall and Leahy Clinic, that area now is called the district. There is going to be a huge, we're approving, we should have last night, but we had the snowstorm, but we'll be approving a huge redevelopment of that area, all to biotech. These companies, today, we don't have to spend hundreds of hours regulating office space. But when it comes to the future of this community, which is biotech, and Burlington is becoming a hub for science, we don't know where that's going to take us. But I can tell you, we couldn't have done it without what you helped us get, an extra person, an associate director of public health.
So they can probably get through another year, but that, maybe your second year of chairmanship, you can oversee that, yeah.
It won't be my fault.
Just don't beat me up hard.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, there's also the Burlington Volunteer Reserve Corps. Is that an accommodated account as well?
I didn't check that. It appears to be rolled into the regular operating budget.
I think that's
so-
in your operating budget.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was under special accounts.
It's under special, it's special but not accommodated.
Oh, okay.
Let me say something about that. We have, we just were talking about 350 members of our Burlington Volunteer Reserve Corps now, the Medical Reserve Corps, as we call it, and they have become so helpful to this community, whether it be during flu season or during COVID or during all of the other programs we have, not even just for the Board of Health, but for other all departments who need some volunteers. We were able to let them use some of our Volunteer Reserve Corps people. So if you're not a member of the Burlington Volunteer Reserve Corps, those people on listening, as well as everyone in this room, please think about joining.
You have to give
We offer a lot of training programs. We've had a lot of training recently. We just had a mental health first aid, and we had a psychological first aid training, and we had, CPR, first aid and bloodborne pathogens, and all of those come with CEUs for nurses, EMTs, social workers. So that's one new thing that we've added. We've added the CEU component, so we have the capability now to apply for our own CEUs for all the trainings that we do.
Can I use my favorite quote when we're all done? This isn't your grandfather's Board of Health. It's just so much going on.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We voted?
Yes.
Yes, we already voted.
You voted yes.
You were for it, Frank.
So that one item was in the budget?
That was in there. That was in the operating budget. Moving on to our increasingly more patient departments, human resources. This is account 152. Do we have a subcommittee report, David?
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
Frank and I met with Joanne, and this human resources for the town, a department of 2. So what you'll see is a very bare bone budget. It's no increase in salaries. Again, these are part of the A&P, so again, any increases will show up in negotiated settlements, but for now, that's level funded. Joanne's, the director's salary has been, as we've gotten accustomed to, is 40% picked up by the school department and 60% by the town. So the budget, as far as this goes, represents the town's portion. With the assistant coordinator, from the expense line items, you'll see there's been some increases in each of those areas. There was an increase of $500 for the increased cost of postings, although there's various ways to post for jobs and what have you. The cost of print advertising is more expensive, so that increased $500. There was an increase of $2,500 for BEMA training, which we discussed with the contract that was approved. That's an extra $2,500. Again, good thing, and it does get used. And the last thing was the training, the staff training. Joanne did a better job this, not a better job, but she did a different job this year. We asked to kind of separate and kind of get a description of what was really in that category, so she detailed it better this year. But the main increase is for the implicit bias training that for $2,000, where upwards of 30 department heads will be able to attend in that area. So the overall increase is 3.11% for $178,441. Subcommittee voted 2-0.
All right, and we have Joanne Faust from HR with us. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, thank you so much. We do have a few increases in our budget this year. The smaller increases is just increased service level costs, standard, cost of living things going up. The bigger changes that we have are the trainings. The union contract has requested, we've negotiated in a $2,500 increase in their professional development opportunities, and they have been using it, which is a great thing. The need is there, the interest is there, and in the long run, it helps people stay sharp in their field, interested, and ready for the next step, which is really important to us for succession planning, to have someone who is able to pitch in when the need is there and ready and able. And we want to keep our good people with us. And then the other training opportunities that we have that are outside of that union, that are just for the good of the whole town, that's what the staff training line item is. We've sent a good number of people at this point to the Suffolk Certificate in Local Government Program. That cost goes up every year. And they also provide some other trainings for us too. There's other leadership development trainings that we send folks to. And this year, we are going to be bringing in an implicit bias training for our department heads, just to kind of spearhead some more DEI awareness. It's out there, but we want to really focus on a little bit more. So our department heads will be going through that. We'll definitely max out our capacity for that training. So that's really what we're up to this year.
Great, thank you. Steve?
Could you just describe what the courseware is in the Suffolk Certificate in Local Government? Like how much work is that and what's covered?
Yeah, that's actually a 6-month course. It's every single Friday, and they go through a series of different courses. So there's budgeting, there's human resources, there's management, a whole bunch of different courses that they take over a 6-month period. And at the end, they do earn college credit with Suffolk, and if they choose to continue, they're that much further into their MPA degree, their Masters of Public Administration degree.
Okay, great, thanks.
Chris?
2 questions. One's a follow-up to that one. So how are staff selected for those? Is it by, you get to say you're interested, or your manager is suggesting you do those?
Both of that, and you need to apply and be accepted. So you need to get your manager's, actually your town administrator's approval. Send in an application, your resume and all of that, and they select based on qualifications and availability for that year's program.
And then for the implicit bias, so you said 30 department heads, we're just talking on the town side?
If I can invite others, I will. Definitely the department heads, assistants, if they are able to make it. If I can bring in some folks from the schools, I'm more than happy to.
And then is it required to attend, or is it going to be optional to attend?
We are going to make it optional. I'd like to have representation from every department, though. So if a department can't attend, I'd like for them to bring someone else in. And then from there, if I have any more slots, I'm recruiting. I'm recruiting people to come in.
Other questions?
Motion to approve?
I think Roger had one.
Sorry.
It's okay, you can second it. Sorry, David, you mentioned that the ratio of the expenses was 40%.
It's roughly 60/40,
It's on the director's salary only, not on anything
only
else.
on the director's salary.
Not the total salary.
Looking at this little trio of numbers at the bottom of the salary page and trying to make it make sense.
The 49 is the 40% of 122.
And it's not exactly 60/40.
It's
Right,
pretty
it's
close.
close.
So I
Okay.
can tell you exactly why it's not 60/40, because when we fund the A&P increases, we do that all on the town side, so it skews it a little bit. So if we were to do the same percentage each year, it would look like the salaries were going down on our side, and it'd be an increase on their side. So that fluctuates between 60/40 and 62/38.
Just one comment on the spreadsheet is it's not obvious that that negative number is 40% of something, or roughly, not obvious from reading the spreadsheet that that's what that.
So normally, there used to be a little 60/40 there, and we got rid of it because this is not exactly 60/40. Didn't want anyone to think it was
Okay.
exactly
And then
60/40.
the other point is, I don't know what the ratio of employees is between the town and the schools, but 40% sounds low.
It's more days. It's, 3 days here and 2 days there, but,
Okay,
Joanne can answer that.
it's
with
more
how
staff
she's-
hours, roughly speaking. Okay, thank you. I'll second Steve's motion.
Were there any other questions? Okay, very good. All right, this is for the HR budget of $178,441. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next is recreation, which is accounts 630 and 631. And do we have a report on that, Roger?
Yes.
Excellent.
So Sonia and I talked to Brendan and
Dave Norton.
Steve, Dave Norton, right. The recreation part is it's got an incredible mission to support programs within the town. And last year, they developed 14,000 hours of programming for 173 unique programs to 10,000 participants. Sponsored 25 events, maintained, improved, and administered 16 parks, grounds at 6 schools, and 285 acres in Burlington. The budget is not level funded, partly because of the usual reasons of salary costs going up, and then the other big component is the costs of materials and to maintain the fields. There have been quite a number of sort of inflationary pressures on things like fertilizer and grass seed that have pushed it up. They have been doing the staff does a great job. There's been zero net change in the staffing this last year. Been a number of shifts around. Kelly Lehman was promoted to be the assistant director. Jesse Hampson was promoted to fill a program coordinator position. And there's an assistant program coordinator position that is empty that they're looking to refill. The overall budget was up 4.1%, and the subcommittee supported it 2-0. Probably more to say, but.
And we have Brendan Egan from the department and Steve Nelson from the board. And just want to give Kevin a thanks. I hear you're retiring from the board. So thank you for all your years on that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Would you like to add anything?
I would like to add a thanks to Kevin as well for supporting us all these years, and supporting our initiatives, encouraging, and he's been great to have on our commission. We will miss him. But I don't know, Steve, you had anything you want to add, and then I can get into any budget questions.
Yeah, just a couple of things. With respect to Kevin, I know what it's like to serve 20-plus years on a board or a committee. It's a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work, and I want to personally thank him for his contributions to the Recreation Commission over the years. I also know what it's like to serve on the Ways and Means Committee. I won't tell you how long ago I served on this committee, but I know how hard you work. It's under the radar screen a lot in the town of Burlington, but I want to tell you that I appreciate the hard work that the subcommittees do and that this whole committee puts into this town and this effort. It's a lot of work, a lot of hard hours, and I just wanted to thank you. One just brief overall comment about our budget. It's up 4.1%, but with a smaller budget like ours, that's not a lot of money. It might be $30,000 or $40,000. Yeah, the original budget that was presented to the commission was in the 5.77%. Again, that's not a lot over the 3.75 guideline with a smaller budget, but we're able to pare it down. We're trying not to cut back on the programming that we provide. And nowadays, as most of you know, parents rely more and more on the recreation programs than ever before. Everybody's working 2 jobs, and they really need these programs for their children. So as a commission, we supported this 500, even though it is a little bit over the guideline. And we're hoping that the committee tonight will support the program as well and our budget as well. Thank you.
Questions? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask, on the contracted services, so for some of the fields, at least 1 or 2, we still use an outside firm for the field maintenance, is that? I got that right?
The only thing we're using outside is, yes, on a couple of the fields for herbicide applications. We do some, we have a staff member who is licensed, but the product that they use is a liquid. We don't have the ability to.
So it's a limited amount of
Correct.
activity.
It's actually going down, and we decreased our herbicide line this year.
Okay, then that's the down 15.5%. Okay. The other thing I wanted to just ask quickly, on the material side, so what is it that you sort of compressed in order to not get this number to be even bigger? Is it materials, is it programs, is it, what did you have to
So
compromise?
actually, the majority of our decreases came on the program side. We decreased our budget for basketball referees, for basketball custodians in the schools. We pay for custodians when we use the schools. So we looked at that budget, and the program is smaller than it has been in the past, so we're able to make a decrease there. We decreased the amount of hours that we would have a marketing coordinator on. It's a part-time position, but we decreased that. The amount of marketing that we do for our programs through social media has just continued to expand over the last 10 years, and we don't see it slowing down. People rely on our social media to know what's going on for updates and program highlights. But then we also eliminated 2 positions in our middle school parks program in the summer, and we reduced the salary for the summer program administrator position. So there were some big decreases there in our program side. And then we also removed our printing of our seasonal brochure completely from the budget. We are no longer printing a nice full-color magazine quality brochure. We are just doing it online. We do print in the office because some people still want a copy, so we give them a black and white. And then we also got rid of our transportation, for that we used for our participants with a disability in our therapeutic rec program. So we cut 5,000 out of the budget there as well.
So that's you operate a van and.
So we were approved for a van. They stopped making them during COVID. It was one of those products that weren't being produced at the time. Now they're producing them again, and the price has gone up significantly. So we haven't purchased that van yet.
Do you have an
We utilize the Burlington Youth and Family Services van.
Okay.
And we have had to rent a passenger van from time to time. So our goal is that we will secure the van this year, and we won't need to.
Okay. So the only thing I caught was that at the middle school, you had to reduce the number of staff for the summer programs by 2 people.
Mhm.
You're still running all the programs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just the setup of the program, we kind of had 2, we had a director and then 2 equal level, I don't want to say they were assistant directors, but we were able to split the groups into 2, so one was kind of in charge of one group that did one activity, and another group went and did another activity. So we're just going to have to make it work this year without.
Well, we'll see how it works. So it looks like, if I may, Mr. Chairman, it looks like this isn't one of those silver bullet things. It looks like in both salaries and expenses, you're under pressure. And on the expense side, so I want to understand what's going on with occupancy? What's driving that?
The ball field lights, we're still paying to heat and electricity up at Overlook. Our old garage is still being used. It was being used by Department of Public Works. Right now, the animal control officer is in there. We are paying those bills. Plus, we have, as you drive up to Overlook, the whole left side is still our storage area, which we will continue to use and maintain.
Do you heat that?
Minimally.
Yeah, the problem with occupancy of anything and everything at Overlook is it's so old. It's like heating the atmosphere up there, right?
So we keep it at a bare minimum at the recommendation of the oil company. Said, keep it as low as possible. We don't have anything up there that will freeze and be damaged.
Well, anything you could do to not have to heat at all, would probably help a lot with that occupancy increase.
We only keep it heated in the, 4 months in the
All right,
winter,
I mean,
5
there's
months.
$90,000 there, right?
Well, we also have all the ball field lights.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Are those, how new are those?
We have.
Are they LED lights?
They're all LEDs, they got replaced.
Not all of them. Some of them, it's an odd thing. If we replace the lights there are a 25-year warranty on the poles and the lights and stuff. If you replace them with LEDs, the ones that haven't hit their 25 years yet, you void the 25-year warranty because you've changed out the fixture. All of our new ones, the tennis courts and skate park area, the basketball courts, the high school field and brush are all LEDs.
And do they save you a lot, the LED lights? Versus the incandescent that were there?
I wasn't here when they switched brush and varsity, but we are saving on the skate park ones, that area, because there was 15 halogen lights there before. So we're down to 5 poles of LEDs. And then the basketball courts we'll realize this year, because those are new this year.
So from my personal perspective as just a member here, not speaking for the whole group, you know, it's a significant budget. It's a $2 million budget, and you're at the 4% level. So we don't like to make cuts in things that seem like we're, you know, cutting off your nose to spite your face. It sounds like you were able to do good compromises for the most part. It sounds like there's nothing you can do about the occupancy whatsoever. And so I guess I would say that, I mean, I certainly support the budget, and I think that you probably are okay on your mission, but it's something we have to watch going forward.
Yeah, the materials portion of the materials and supplies portion of the maintenance division of our department, you know, could use some increases. We tried to hold off on them again this year, knowing that the town administration was able to work out some good contracts, and the staff would benefit from those. But, you know, going forward, our field maintenance program continues to improve our fields, and we're adding new fields each year. We didn't take everything on at once. We started slowly.
Is there a new field in the FY24 budget?
Not a new field
When you're
that was
taking
developed, but
responsibility
into the
for it.
program, we added at the end of last year, actually the beginning of the FY23 budget, we added in Memorial School, the soccer field there. And we had some good results by the end of the fall, so that will be in again this year.
To improve the field and...
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I mean by adding new fields in.
Yeah.
And we're working on ones that were irrigated, you know, that have irrigation in them already, because if we're gonna spend, you know, increase our budget and we don't have regular water, it's throwing money away, especially in a year like last year.
Okay, thank you.
Sadia?
Chairman, I think the question that Frank is talking about is a discussion that Doug and I had last year at subcommittee, and Roger and I had at the subcommittee level as well, which is the idea of, you know, funding services or what the community continues to expect as services coming out of places like the Rec Commission, for example, or the Rec Department. Certainly nothing that we're going to discuss this year, but I think we say this every year, and we're starting to get closer to that point where some decisions are going to have to be made on how we look at the budget, you know, and whether we're in fact going to continue to serve the community at the level that they have gotten accustomed to, and which means we up the ante a little bit, or are we in fact going to understand that there are going to be times where we'll be backing off some of the programming. I think the Recreation Department did a really good job this year in finding that happy medium, so I thank you guys for that. But I think that we've been doing this little drip campaign as a committee where we talk about it little by little every year, that there's gonna come a point where you're gonna feel that, and Burlington will have to make some decisions at that point. You know, we talk about the will of the community and what they, you know, what we're willing to absorb as a community. And I think we're gonna, you know, we're starting to see that in certain things. You know, I'm a broken record in saying we're a very fortunate community in that we still get to see increases, but there will be this moment where we'll have to talk about, you know, are we gonna continue at that level, or are we looking at, you know, paring back some of the programming at some point? Luckily, we don't have to do that in full force this year, of course, but I think rec felt it a little bit more this year than in years past. So I just wanted to go on record as saying it doesn't go unnoticed that you guys have done that. We thank you for that. And certainly that as a committee, I think we're starting to understand that that's what's coming. And while I have the mic, Mr. Chairman, I just also want to echo, Kevin, thank you for everything. I know it's been a lot of work for you, and we've always enjoyed seeing you here. I can imagine that Wednesdays have been your highlight in the budget season with us, but thank you, seriously. It doesn't go unnoticed, the amount of work you put into the community.
And just part of that discussion has also been whether there would be any change to the fee structure. And I'm just curious, have you felt any need to change that to, you know, help balance your budget, or?
So we have made some changes to our fees. Whenever we make a change, we get very quick feedback from our participants. And then after we explain it a little more in depth to them, that sometimes a program goes up $10 in price. And, you know, for some of the participants, that could be a lot, especially those that are on a fixed income. But when you break it down to over a 12-week program and it's $10, you know, less than $1 a week, they can kind of rationalize that. But we need to look overall at our department budget and come up with a better cost recovery plan that really breaks down each segment of our program offerings and finds, you know, where we may be undercharging, where we could be overcharging, and finding that structure to put in place to price our programs accordingly without losing the public, without losing our participants.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Sonia just said, and, you know, that makes me want to look at this budget even more closely. For example, just wanting some more information, you know, noticing the software maintenance contract almost doubled. You know, I would always love more information on what other membership meeting, conference, and seminars are for $2,000. Then, you know, why the cellular phone service went up. I didn't see any new FTEs, so why that's going up by $1,200. And, you know, looking at the grass seed going from $2,700 to $10,000. You know, those are the things that town meeting members are going to notice too. So I think some more specifics on why those are changing will help get ahead of it when trying to justify this.
Okay. Would you like any of those answers now? All right. So grass seed, we decreased our herbicide, which is just what it is. It takes care of weeds and broadleaf, things like that. We're going to, we've treated these number of fields. We're not seeing the crabgrass, the weeds coming in, and where our goal is to keep healthy stands of grass there. So by chasing out the weeds, then we overseed and keep it full and don't have bare spots. So that's why there is an increase. Last year, there was a big increase in the price of seed. We actually were proactive and out of the revolving account set aside $25,000 to purchase seed and fertilizer before the price went up. So we saved, overall, I think we saved close to 15% on our purchases by doing that. But we can't continue to rely on the revolving account, which are funds brought in for programs, to pay out maintenance expenses and costs. And they weren't into this budget. Seed went up because of the weather and where it's grown, northwest part of the country. They didn't have a rainy season. They rely on it, and that caused price of seed to go up. Cellular phones, in the summertime, we utilize we have a large number of participants in programs, and they're out around town. Instead of our summer staff utilizing their own cellular phones for getting communication back and forth from the office, we do have iPads and tablets that get current information, have rosters right there, emergency contacts, all that. So we did, when we prepared this, we didn't know we were switching cellular service at the time. So, and then, I'm sorry, there was...
That was the software maintenance contract?
Yes, so we have our regular rec track, which is Vermont Systems. That is our registration software, facility scheduling software. But last year, we went to Bamboo HR to help with the onboarding and of all of our staff. We have in the summer upwards of 150 additional staff, part-time staff. In the summer alone, it goes up by 70 to 80, depending on the programs. And it was really a benefit. So now everything is done online. There's no more back and forth, lost paperwork, and it's on the employee to make sure all that is in. We check it on our end, and then we upload it to HR downstairs, so they have that paperwork. So last year, we funded that. This year, we added some of it into the budget. We are paying, just gonna find this real quick. We added 25% of the Bamboo cost, $4,200 to the budget. We are paying the other $12,000 out of revolving. So it's a small portion that, we were expecting the town to help us with.
And then the last one was just the other memberships, meeting, conferences, et cetera.
So besides our state conference and national conference, other professional development opportunities come up throughout the year. So that's what it is. And our staff has, the reason our programs are so good and our maintenance is getting better is because we've increased our professional development. They're going and learning different ways of doing things and bringing back those ideas and those programs to the town. So I would say it's money well spent.
David?
This may be, Roger related. I had a same question on the software maintenance contract. So again, just looking at the budget sheet, again, no issue. You have, on the directors, you have 11,300 for this year. Budget last year it was 10,750. But when you look at the backup for last year, so maybe there was something that wasn't in the lineup, it only totals 6,350. So it's off by about 6,000. So again, when you look at prior year's requests, under contracted services for rec director, last year you budgeted 10,750, this year 11,300, for an increase of 5%. If you look at prior year's requests and current requests, prior year's was 6,350, not 10,750. Again, there might have been something that was taken off, or, so was there an increase from 4,700 to 8,900 in that category? And if you're saying yes, there was an increase.
That was the 4,200 for the Bamboo software was
Got
the
it.
increase.
So there must have been some other contracted service from last year that totaled roughly $5,000 to get to your prior request of 10,750. Because it only totals 60.
Yeah, I
So again-
wonder if it's a formula thing in there, because that was what it was last year.
Got it.
Must be.
Oh, printing of the brochure, thank you. Printing of the
That was
brochure was,
taken off.
yep, it's out of there. It was 5,200. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Last year.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What are you finding the environment is for hiring, either filling vacant full-time positions or part-time positions? Are you able to get candidates in?
Yes, we actually did, Roger, we do have an assistant program coordinator that was hired. They came from another recreation department in southern New Hampshire. Our full-time staff that we've had to replace, we've had 20-plus applications for those full-time positions. And Kelly and Emma Jones, our therapeutic recreation specialist, developed a employee onboarding retention program last year that I would say the last 3 or 4 years, we are hiring 50 summer staff, which we hadn't done in a long time. If we had 15 positions open, it was a lot. But the 3 or 4 years leading into the pandemic, so we needed to find something to retain. We had really good luck last year. We had a young staff. We're hoping a lot of them come back this year and stay with us. But for the most part, it's been pretty good for us. I think we're a desirable department to work for.
Yeah, you must be, because I hear other places just saying it's really hard to get people to want to be, a fireman or something like that. It's tougher to fill. So the grass improvement program sounds good. I used to ask about that every year when I was on the fields, like every night of the week. I almost feel like going and checking out the situation again.
With all of our pet areas.
If I remember correctly, Francis Wyman was your big one.
Francis Wyman, yeah, with the ants and the,
Yep.
oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
we are not able to use any herbicide on the school property, so that is one of the reasons why our grass seed has gone up too, because that's how we're able to, that's the only way we can chase out the broadleaf stuff from growing in, is to overseed. We overseed 3 times a year there, so.
They solved it after you were done.
Used to have to be doing stretches like before practice, and you're on an ant hill. It's like, find a spot that doesn't.
It is a sand-based field, and ants do like sand.
So the only other question is, what's Kevin gonna do now that he's no longer on the board? All his free time.
Seasonal staff.
Seasonal
staff.
Put him in charge of the middle school program.
Doug?
Couple of things. So just to make sure, you didn't have to cut lengths of programs this summer, camps, anything like that? At one point I heard something about maybe.
No, we did have to cut position-wise, so number of hours for marketing coordinator, as I mentioned, and some staff in the middle school park program.
And second, somebody asked me just the other day, whatever happened to the shade structure for Wildwood?
So that was another pandemic expense that increased. It went up by 40%. I actually have a meeting there tomorrow at Wildwood Park to look at potentially other options, different companies, that kind of thing. But the prices went up, and even, the price of the material went up. We didn't even get to an installation portion yet. I'm sure that has gone up as well.
There's an open warrant for that, though. isn't
Yes.
there?
Yep.
But it's
Yep.
only,
So we went to purchase it that fall, and it had gone up 40%. There was no way we were going to be able to purchase it and have it installed.
Are you thinking of bringing that warrant on the capital plan this year?
Not for this year, no. I'm hoping,
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Because there's a fairly large list of other warrant articles, I noticed.
It's a pre-existing need. I don't know, different discussion.
It's all a matter of priorities.
maybe it will be added to the list by the time we come
Maybe.
back.
So now I have to ask a question if the chairman will let me.
We'd be delighted to hear it.
It's not what you think, though. I just want to know, you water a number of fields, is that true? So Wildwood, Memorial, now the field at the middle school?
No,
You
the
don't?
backside there, the
No.
backside of the middle school, no.
So how, besides the two I mentioned, what else do you water?
Simons Park, Rahanis,
And Francis Wyman?
Francis Wyman, Marvin, and
Okay,
Rotary.
that's enough. So who pays for the water?
We, the town.
Okay, so that's not part of your occupancy nightmare.
Correct.
Okay, good. That's the way, I think that's the way it should be.
What budget is that in?
Well, yes, during,
General, we subsidize water, remember?
Just,
But we don't have a number. Sorry, I'm talking out of turn.
Yeah, let's let Frank finish up here.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to know, because that's significant.
Okay, Steve.
how does the town water ban impact your watering?
so we, I know there is a waiver for us, and people ask me, I don't know where it came from. I don't know when, yes,
Did it have an expiration date?
No. Every year, when it's approved, there is a waiver in there. So we did drastically cut back our watering. Obviously, we were putting money into the fields for fertilizer and seed. And we were down to 2 days a week for a limited amount of time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, in the middle of the night on fields that we were renting to keep them safe, that there was actual, for safety reasons, we kept it going. Other fields, once a week, and some we didn't water at all. So we were lucky that we did get a good amount of rain in the fall, but as the temperatures cooled, it gives a break to the grass, and as teams started going back to play youth sports leagues on the other fields, we did water, up that watering. If they weren't watered at all, they were going 1 day a week. If they were more the fields that are played on by youth sports and the high school, they got 2 days a week. But pretty quickly into the fall, as we started to get some good soaking rains, they came back, so.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Roger? Okay.
Second?
You're holding it in. Excellent. Okay. All right, this is for $2,105,611. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Yeah, Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 12-0-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, and our final item is other legislative, which is count 119. Do you have a report on that, David?
We do, level funded at 11,017. This includes all the 6 areas for recording secretaries and the moderator's stipend. Level funded from prior years, subcommittee voted 2-0 in favor.
Any questions on that?
Which budget was that?
119.
119.
Yeah. We're in it. Please be with that, yeah.
Motion to approve?
Second.
And I see we can spend up to $273.
$270.
Ways and Means materials.
Exactly.
I look forward to that. I was going to buy a new gavel, but then we found it. So,
Name tags.
Name
that was a good idea.
I think we should eliminate the moderator's budget.
Oh.
We're still in the discussion period. All right, this is for $11,017. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 12-0-0. Just to be clear, I'm saying Chris Campbell because we do have 2 Chris's. So I'm not trying to pick on you. All right. It makes it easier for Jen. Okay. Now, I believe we are at approval of minutes, which I'm going to find in a moment. We have the minutes for March 8th I sent around. I didn't see any comments. Are there any suggestions on that, or we're all good? Good. All right, sounds like we're all good.
Second.
Thank you. All right, this is for the March 8th minutes here. David? Oops, hold on, got a typo going here. There we go. Sonia?
Abstain.
Roger?
Yes.
Ed?
Abstain.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's not, 10-02. Okay, that's, so just a heads up for what's coming up. Next week's agenda, we have another big night here. So this is for the March 22nd meeting, we'll have assessors, building inspector, MIS, sealer of weights and measures, veterans, disability access, central administration, a whole host of accommodated accounts from Town Hall 1, treasurer collector. I'll be sending out an updated schedule shortly. David, you were okay with where we ended up with
Right,
that?
so central administration includes a lot of those accommodated. It's the one that's in central administration that we're not gonna discuss is the health insurance 32B line item.
Right, that is.
We are adding the Middlesex retirement.
Yes, okay, good. So I apologize, the last schedule I sent out, I had accidentally duplicated a number of those accommodated accounts. That's gonna be straightened out, so everything only appears once. And as we just mentioned, some of those swap back and forth depending on when the administration's gonna be ready to talk about them. I've also specifically enumerated the other accounts so that it's clear when we're discussing
I thought
those.
it was
Those
an
are both.
IQ test you were running. How many iterations we could follow?
Well, always look, that's why I put a date at the top, always look at the latest one. You're okay with the other accounts being April 5th?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
they'll be right on that? Okay, good. Okay.
Should be, yeah.
Yeah, it's not scheduled yet, but.
Not scheduled.
Okay,
but
if they
it's-
aren't, we don't have a whole lot of dates to use. And the one thing that isn't explicitly on here, but we usually talk about the special/revolving accounts when the warrant article about the limits on the revolving accounts comes up. So I'll assume we're doing that again this year, but if you could make sure the administration's ready with that.
Yeah,
that'd
so
be
is
great.
that a warrant article, the limits?
Well, there's a warrant
Yes, it's a
article
warrant.
that talks about
Yeah, oh.
reauthorizing the limits.
Right, I
but
wasn't sure
at
it
the
was a
same-
warrant article.
At the same time, we talk about, all the cash flow and balances.
Right.
Status
of the
That
accounts.
is a annual article though, right?
Yes.
So I assume that will.
Yes.
be
Yeah,
Yes.
the
approved.
expenditure limits in certain categories.
Right, that part's in it, so naturally makes sense, and I know they don't have the date on that till usually the end of March, so that's why we put that at the end, yeah. David?
If I could just, one point of, we had our meeting, I'm the representative of the Ways and Means on the Audit Committee, so we had our meeting last week, just to let everyone know, and actually went very, very positive. Jim Powers came in and spoke about the audit this past year, and couldn't have said anything better. It was glowing. Most of the items from the management letter of last year were addressed. One was partially, 4 were corrected, one was partially corrected, which has to do with tailings, but that should be resolved. Tailings are, again, more like unpaid checks that haven't been cashed, that they've got to recognize within a period of time. But long and the short of it, it was a glowing report, and nothing yet as far as what may be special projects for the coming year, but we'll keep you posted if anything gets brought up.
Great. Anything else for tonight? All right, I believe that's it. We will be adjourned.
Thank you.
Jesus.